What's up, data friends? It's Yanis here and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build this Streamlit app from scratch, which we basically have our unsupervised machine learning model, a K-means algorithm that classifies the inputs we pass into this left-hand side over here into 5 different clusters. We also have some analysis over here of our clusters, which was generated by an LLM, an AI model. And we also have the cluster analysis table and the visualization of the clusters. So if we quickly demonstrate it, if somebody says they are age 28, for example, they have a 300 cholesterol, and they are male, for example, if we click on cluster me, this is going to now call our model and then it's going to assign you into a cluster. And it says you belong to cluster 2. So if we want to read the characteristics of cluster 2 now, we can scroll down and we can see the characteristics of cluster 2. Now, please note that this is actually the second videos of a 3-series videos. In the first video, we have actually showcased how you can develop this K-means model and then store the results and analysis. And then in this video, we are going to show how you can deploy this model into a Streamlit app. And then in the next video, we are going to showcase how to build this Power BI dashboard from scratch that has the analysis of our model. And before we jump into this video, let me just say that if you're passionate about data analytics and data science, then please consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and enable notifications for my future videos. Right, starting with the first thing we want to do, I'm going to go down here where we left it in the previous video, which is basically over here. The first thing we want to do now is to gather all the raw data and then prepare it so we can feed it into our K-means algorithm. So basically we have to create all these input boxes on the left-hand side and also the selection bars we have over here, and then transform them in a way so we can actually feed it into our already trained unsupervised machine learning model, which is K-means, and then get a prediction. So if I go back, if you see over here, first I am specifying our numeric features. So let me zoom in so you can see it easier. Where is it? Over here. And then I am also specifying the categorical options. I'm setting the name and then all the possible options we have in each one of those features. The next step now is to create the inputs and also the selection boxes. So what I'm saying over here is that if the feature is in numeric features, so in these features over here, then I want to create this st, which is Streamlit .sidebar.number input. This input is going to take the feature as input and the default value is going to be 0. For example, it's going to start with age. Age is a numeric feature, so it's going to create this input box you see over here, where the default, if I refresh, is 0, and then whatever I fill in is going to be the age input. The next step now is to create these selection boxes for the categorical options. So what I'm saying here is that for feature, which is going to be these features over here, and then option, which is going to be one of the options within the feature itself, then I want to create this selection box over here that plots the feature, and then within the feature you have the options. And then for option in options, the user input is actually going to be translated into feature, so sex, for example, and then underscore option, which is male, for example. And then if that is selected, I want to have 1, otherwise I want to have 0. Then I convert my user inputs into a data frame, and I have this input data frame over here. st is not defined, so let me run this one first, and then I'm going to run this one. There you go. You can see we have all the default values and all the possible features that our model needs in order to make a prediction. The next step now is to basically start building our Streamlit app. And this piece of code I've just shown you is going to be in the Streamlit app code. Right, going down here now, first make sure you have all these libraries installed on your PC. If you don't have them, then you need to run pip install and then the name of the library, and it's going to be installed. Then the next thing I do is that I set my page configuration layout to be wide. So I'm using all the page, as you can see in our Streamlit app. Then I'm creating some custom CSS in order to add some style in my Streamlit app. For example, this first bit is removing the padding from the start of the page and the title. This second style over here is basically aligning our titles to be in the center. This is aligning our subheaders to be in the center and also some other options. And then this dot scrollable summary is creating this box you see around clusters summary. Let me zoom out. There you go. So we can actually scroll and see all the cluster characteristics. Right, going back, let me zoom in again. The next thing I do is that I load our pre-trained model that we have already trained and stored. So if I scroll up above here in the previous video, we've stored our model as Kmeans_model.pgol, and now I'm just loading our model back into the Streamlit app. The next thing I do is that we are loading our scaler that we're going to use to scale our numeric features. Then I am loading the PCA 2 dimensions, and then these 2 dimensions is actually going to be this principal component 1 or 2, and then this other principal component that we have explained in the previous video. Next, I am loading the cluster analysis, which is a data frame, which is basically this table you see over here with the analysis of our clusters. Next, I am loading the cluster summaries, and this is actually the Pgol file, which is actually text, and this is what we're gonna use in order to print all of these you see over here, the cluster summaries, the text which has the analysis of our LLM of our clusters. Going back, the next thing I do is that I load the 2 images. My first image is this image you see over here on the sidebar, and the second image is this image you see at the top, which is our banner. Next, I'm copying and pasting the same code as I have explained at the beginning of the video, and again, this is the same code as we've explained before. Next, we are setting the main page layout, so we are adding a title, and then we are also adding the main image, which is this banner you see over here. Next, I am splitting the page into 2 sections. So column left is going to be this section you see over here with the Scatterplot, and then column right is going to be the cluster summaries you see over here. So I'm saying with column left, I first want to add my subheader, which is cluster visualization, and basically this h2 class equals subheader is going to use the markdowns that we have created at the top over here, the markdowns, and it's going to find subheader, and it's going to use these options over here. So it's going to align it on the center, it's going to set the font size to 24, the font weight to bold, and then the color is going to be this color over here. Right, going down again, over here, I am creating this Scatterplot. I am passing my data frame that I have loaded. I am saying X is principal component 1, Y is principal component 2, color is going to be based on clusters, we have the title, we have the labels, and we have the template, and over here I'm saying st.plotly_chart, and then I'm passing this figure I have just created, and this is basically creating this Scatterplot you see over here with our clusters. Right, going back, next we're gonna have our right column, which is going to be our cluster summaries. So first I am adding our subheader, and I'm passing the class subheader, which we have created above. Then I start our scrollable box, which is basically div class equals scrollable dot summary, which is what we have created above here, which is basically the box. And now we need to add the text in the box. So if I scroll down here, I am saying that If the cluster summaries is a string, then I'm going to pass the cluster summaries into the summary underscore content. Else, if the cluster summary is itemized, so the key and the value is in cluster summaries, so this is for JSON formats, just because sometimes the LLM is returning JSON formats, I had to add this piece of code over here. Then I'm going to store the key and the value into summary content. Otherwise, I'm going to say no cluster summaries. And over here, I'm just printing st.markdown, the summary content, into our scrollable summary box. And this is what you see on the right-hand side over here. Right, going back, the next section now is to split our page again into two columns. We are going to have on the left-hand side the prediction, the cluster me, and then on the right side we are going to have our cluster analysis table. To do this, we are going to go back. We are going to say with second left column, we are going to add our subheader, and we are also going to add a button. This button is going to be called cluster me, and if we click the button, then I'm going to call our Kmeans model, which we have loaded above, say .predict, and then pass the transformed input data frame. So we have created the data frame with all the selections, and now we are passing that into our scaler, which is again the scaler we have trained in the previous video, and then we stored it, and then we loaded it back in. And I'm passing that into our model, and it's storing the prediction of the cluster into cluster ID. And then over here, I'm saying st.success. So if it's successful, I want you to print the cluster ID. So if we test it, if we click on it, this is going to pass all these features you see on the left-hand side in our model, and it's going to fit them in our model, and it's going to make this prediction you see over here. Now on the right column, I basically want to print the data frame, and our data frame is going to be the cluster analysis.head. And the reason I'm saying .head is because we only want to use the first 5 rows. However, we only have 5 clusters, so we only have 5 rows. So we don't really need it. I think the reason I've used the .head is so that I can shorten the size of the table a bit. Right, the next step now is to deploy our Streamlit app, and to do this we need to create a new file, which is going to be a .py file, and then we are going to use Visual Studio Code in order to run this .py file. So over here we are going to copy all of our code and then paste it into this file, and we are going to rename this into Kmeans app2, and then click rename, and also don't forget to save all. Now you're gonna need to find this file and store it in the location you want. So in my case, the file is over here. This one I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into Kmeans Clustering over here. And now I need to open this folder, all of the folder, into the Visual Studio Code, which is what I have over here. I click on File, Open Folder, and then you need to select the folder, and this is going to open the folder you have the file in. And in our case, this is the file over here. We have just created it. And in order to run this file now, you're gonna need to create a new command prompt over here, and then you need to run Streamlit run, and then the name of the file. So let me get the name of the file quickly. This is the name of the file. Paste it over here, copy this, and then over here, paste it, click enter, and this is going to open a new page in your browser, which is going to have the Streamlit app we have just created. There you go. So if I zoom out a bit, and then let's try and test our app. I'm going to set the age to 35. I'm going to set the cholesterol to 500 maybe. I'm going to set the old peak into, I don't know, 125. I'm going to change this to male. I'm going to change this to typical. I'm going to change this into true. Slope, I'm going to select flat, and then I think that's it. And then I'm going to click on cluster me. There you go. This called our model, made the prediction, and it said that based on the characteristics we've given to the model, we belong in cluster 2. Now we can use the cluster summaries now to understand the difference between the clusters, and we can also use the cluster analysis table to visualize exactly all the data based on the cluster. Right, this is it for this video. In the next video, we are going to create this Power BI dashboard from scratch. So please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and enable notifications to see when I'm going to upload that video.